to another review section. This is Ian here along with Chris.
Hey, everybody.
And we're going to be talking about Atomic Blonde today.
Atomic Blonde.
Initially we thought we're going to have a bit of a clash with this one. Dark Tower's not until next week, which totally freed up this week, thankfully, for Atomic Blonde to drop in and check that out. I think, Chris, you're pretty fresh off of this one, right? Just this afternoon?
Just a few hours ago.
Nice. Very nice.
I'm still trying to descramble all of it in my brain.
Is it as... did you take it as complex as some called it? The end. I know I think some of the initial things I read about this, people were saying that it kind of throws you for a bit of a loop. You gotta really sit and think about some of it. I mean, did it strike you like that or not?
Well, okay, so I don't want to get into too many spoilers right now. We're doing non-spoiler first, but I will say this: I'd seen the same thing,
right?
And if it's not a good spy movie unless at some point you're like, what? And
yeah.
You know what I mean? So you gotta think that at some point. And what I thought was the big reveal wasn't the big reveal, and then the big reveal was like, what? And so it was good in that regard. But was it as brain twisting as I had heard? No.
Yeah.
No. But overall, this was a fun, enjoyable movie.
It was.
And Charlize Theron is naked a couple times.
You know, she doesn't have any qualms about this. She never really has any of her films. But and another thing that comes down to, I think, is how she's always pushed for her roles to be pretty darn believable.
But hold on, by the way, I just have to interrupt for a second. So for those of you who were waiting for that part for us to say in the review, and now you're going to be leaving because you heard the part you needed to hear to see the movie, see you later.
That's all you needed.
That's all some of them needed.
And they checked out.
But it's not, it's not like, bam, there she is just naked. It was very artsy.
No, for sure. I mean, it's well done. This is just a quick soundbite of my own that I've always thought about. Charlize Theron actually she had a pretty dark past, just some stuff she dealt with early on. I mean, her father shot her. I mean, her mother shot her abusive father when she was 15.
Whoa! By the way, people, you need to know this. Ian is a huge Charlize Theron fan.
I am.
You hear a lot about her today.
Yes, I am. In that vein, she always kind of reminded me a little bit of Keanu Reeves in a sense. Keanu Reeves has a pretty dark things he's gone through himself, but I think it's affected their acting differently. For Charlie's case, I think she's always been able to come off as pretty genuine in her roles. I've never second guessed that or doubted it. In fact, her ability to turn a script into her own has always been pretty cool. We've seen her in a lot of different roles too, right? I mean, we talked a bit before the show about Mad Max. She's played prisoners before. She's played in glamour roles. Whodunits. Really, you name it, the whole gambit. And I think she brings some of that here. And of course, insisting to do her own stunts as much as she could and everything else. So, coming into this movie, I was concerned about the whole 80s vibe. I think how pervasive that was going to be. Is it going to get in the way of the movie? Is it just going to be a little too much and too blaring? But no, I mean, it mixes the whole 80s theme in a kind of cool, gritty sort of way.
I have to disagree with you on that. Now, first, let me say that I agree completely that Charlize Theron definitely brings a stone cold badassery to these kind of roles that she plays in a very believable sense. At no point are you like, no, not this chick. She plays it well, and you can tell she knows it.
Yep.
So I didn't want to glance by that, but I'm going to have to disagree with you when it comes to the 80s vibe a little bit. I think I think the music, the soundtrack, actually the score to that, and even for that point, the sound effects in some across the board, I kind of have issues with all these things. But in particular, talking about the 80s vibe that gives off, I think the music is way too abrupt and in your face sometimes. It's not used appropriately all the time. Sometimes, like, God, that's really annoying. And how they try to play tricks with it. It's like, is the actor at this moment listening to this song? And then sometimes they are, and sometimes it's not. It's a bit too in your face.
And I think...
go ahead.
Careful at the disagreement. The vibe, I think, is the portion that's strong. It's funny you comment on it, because I'm gonna tail you on that in a moment here. I actually completely agree about the music being a little in your face, a little much, kind of forcing portions of the scene that don't, or scenes rather, that don't really have to be forced.
It's in there too much.
It is.
It's almost like they're trying to make it a character at times that just shouldn't be there.
It is. No, I completely agree. But I think it's important to kind of separate that. As abrasive and intrusive as that can be, the aesthetic, I think, still shines through pretty well. I always wonder about these kind of things. I think the last time I saw a very old aesthetic kind of mixed in with some of the modern tech was in a Star Wars prequel, Rogue One, and that was done really well. I think in this case too, where you had some like the old school TVs and everything else, that worked. I think that in the sense of the vibe hitting the mood, I think it worked. It pulled me back to a 1989 enough.
How old were you in 1989?
Oh man, I was only 3.
You were 3. See, I was in my tweens. Very awkward time, especially because of that time frame, just in general, not just my age. But I agree. Visually, I think it worked pretty well. I remember the Berlin Wall falling. I remember that night. I didn't quite understand what the heck was going on, other than, hey, that wall's down. Everyone's really happy about it. So I remember that. But I'll agree. Visually, I think it worked really well. Her outfits in the movie are all pretty awesome and seem in line with the time.
Yep. No, yeah, definitely. And going along with that, you have that entire historical backdrop. And this is always interesting. There's always been, at least from a lot of films I've seen like this, that have a historical backdrop to a fictional story in a sense. It either comes off as too clashing or too, maybe a little obnoxious at points or whatever else. But this is just my personal feeling on these. I've always felt films like that should be told more as, here's sort of the accessory story. Let your imagination spin a bit. This could have been something that was on the side. What if it was? What if it wasn't? And I think this was at least able to do that. I think the only one of the few problems you have setting yourself up with that, and I want to go into the narrative model a bit here, is you obviously can't affect certain events, okay? If you have that historical backdrop, you're not going to go rewrite history, right? So now you're going to be writing that story from to see how it folds out fictionally, how all those characters within that world, which is essentially a subset, a side of this historical world we painted, how all of that unfolds, where that goes. And
I think they did a good job of bringing that up right away. Here's, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. I'll get that right sooner or later. and then they're like, this is not that story. I thought that was important that they do that.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like, this is something that's happening aside from that.
Definitely.
Adjacent to that.
How about telling the narrative? How much did you get into sort of having a, here's current time, let's reflect back on what happened, and then kind of coming in and out of current time, past time? Did that interfere with you at all, or did you dig it?
I was expecting that to bother me. I'd seen a couple of reviews before I went and saw this, and a couple people had said that they did not like it. I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Here's a lot of them were saying, well, it takes you out of it a little bit, thinking that she's not going to die. She's not going to die. It's Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
This isn't. She's the Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
She's not going anywhere. This isn't. I forget the name of that movie. That awesome movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he ends up getting shot like 3/4 through it. Do you know what I'm talking about, or did I just spoil that for you?
No, look, I actually don't. I only really started tracking DiCaprio with Inception and on. If you're talking Gangs of New York or something else before that, maybe.
Gangs of New York. And I'll see if I can look it up while we're doing this here.
Yeah.
She's not going anywhere. People don't really have much of a flavor for that right now. The audiences aren't looking for, the hero dying in the movie or anything like that. It's not, that comes and goes in spurts.
Yeah.
Generally. We're not there right now. No, I thought, I lost my train of thought on that.
The narrative worked, though. It didn't bother you.
The narrative. I was okay with it. I was fine with it. I thought it was interesting. They played with it a little bit, just enough. I
Yeah.
think it would have been fine if they wouldn't have done that. But I actually, despite some people saying they didn't like that, I was fine with it. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
You don't see too many movies pull that off to great effect, and I would say that this one is a bit above how most do it.
Yeah, you always got to be. I think you have to be wary how much you go between the past and present flashes. I was taken back to Wonder Woman when I was thinking of that, because the very beginning of Wonder Woman, it's flash forward or present time. Post Batman versus Superman, and then we have this whole past story. Then at the very end, we get back to it. So you don't have any present interfering with anything that happens. But no, I mean, I'm with you. It worked here, and I think it worked because of the backdrop of the debriefing.
Right. And honestly, you don't see a lot of spy movies do that, because they depend so much on, well, if you think this character is going to live, then it takes you out of it. So maybe that's why so many people have said that they didn't like that. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I never at any point expected the Atomic Blonde to die. So
Cool, because it's the Atomic Blonde,
that's right.
and it's Charlize Theron. So
Do you think we'll see another Atomic Blonde? They were trying. Marketing was trying to say that this was the female Bond that we've been waiting for.
Yeah,
I was waiting for one. But.
Well, while I disagree with that note, on the lines of this world, this character is that Bond, I disagree. Hey, the very nature of spy films, the very nature, I think, of how sort of open-ended some of this is left, it's possible.
Yeah. By the way, that movie is called The Departed with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Thank you.
That?
I have not seen it.
You need to see it. Well, now that I've ruined it for you, you need to see it. It is absolutely, by the way, spoiler for a 15-year-old movie. Sorry, everyone.
Ouch.
He surprisingly, shockingly gets his brains blown out 3/4 of the way through, and you're like, what? It is a definite WTF moment in movie history.
Crap.
You have to, yeah. Well, and he is the main guy. He is the guy that the whole story is about. So, it is very shocking. Now that I've ruined it for you, go watch it.
Thanks.
But we're still in non-spoilers for Atomic Blonde here. So, what'd you think of the rest of the cast?
Yeah. Now, I'm making sure I got some of my actors right here. If I recall correctly, was that not Xavier from?
Yeah, that's James McAvoy.
Thought it was James. Yeah. Definitely surprised to see him here. I think he did a great job with some of the double and triple twist we took, as far as where he stood in relation to everybody else.
Right.
We had I'm trying to track them. I'm so bad with names in some of these, but
John Goodman.
John Goodman. Yeah, who could forget John Goodman?
Yeah, right. I mean, when he's not getting ready to reprise his role as Roseanne or playing a Transformer, John Goodman is John Goodman.
He is.
He's the man.
His role here, yep, as the G-Man, as the big ops guy. Yeah, he worked. And even though most of his role was done in the quote unquote present time in the debriefing, the times where he did pop up in the original story, it worked. And I think it set his presence. I think overplaying that hand or having him, in too many scenes is kind of be awkward. You can't, especially in the middle of an active mission going on. That would have been weird.
I was really surprised with James McAvoy's range. Now, I did not see Split, so maybe if I had seen Split, which came out here, I may not have been as surprised by it. But I've not seen him in that kind of frantic kind of role, I guess. So I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
The relationship between him, his character, and Atomic Blonde.
Definitely.
This is how I'm going to refer to her. Because
Yeah.
even though we do find out the name of the movie, I don't even want to say that much. So I thought the relationship between them was great. Probably one of the best parts of the movie. Kept you guessing. It was very compelling.
It was, especially. I think the whole time you start to wonder if he has a dubious nature. Is he really doing what he says? Is he? And I think every moment you're comfortable with this guy, something happens where you're not comfortable. All of a sudden, and then you start, replaying all the scenarios in your head. But no, the rest of the supporting cast, there's a huge net here. This is the part I really liked of different agencies. Effectively, we're talking MI6, CIA, KGB, fringe intelligence, and how all these characters play in these worlds. It's interesting. I feel that everyone we have in this movie interacting are sort of subsets of these larger organizations looming that have intelligence and counterintelligence wars actively going. That's pretty cool. Pretty fun dynamic. Good stuff to have. The villains are super ruthless, which is awesome. I think they tie into everything really well. But again, what's done so cool here is none of that disrupts quote unquote history. Like the stuff you see in the news and everything, that they sort of say, hey, this story isn't about that. That's all just happening in the background. And it was really cool to see this story take the forefront and all of that become background noise, ambience. What was happening here. So no, yeah, I thought all the chemistry worked good. Thought they played off each other well.
No, agreed. So the other big star of this movie is the action. What did you think of the action?
Oh yeah. Going into this, there's a couple of scenes that were very heralded. It won't take you very long if you do a Google search for some of this. Which scenes? You'll probably see something about a stair scene. I'm instantly transported to Daredevil from Netflix. Thinking about some of this, there was a very similar scene. I don't point to that as like a rip at all. The choreography here is really exciting. You're pulled into an action sequence just enough to really take on the perspective of the protagonist. In our case, mostly Atomic Blonde here, and it's great because you never see the next thing coming. They show it. The angles are so tight, but they go wide when they need to give you a really good look at everything that's happening in the scene. There's no. What I really like. This is a huge departure from something like Bourne Identity, Bourne series. The Bourne series had some real intense scenes, but what got to me were the camera and the angles were going so nuts you could hardly focus on what was happening. So to keep that frantic pace, to keep really strong action like that, but I think to really balance it the way they did, this is great cinematography.
Not too much shaky cam.
Yeah, I can't do that. But that if you are looking for an action film, which of course this is, and if you're looking for solid sequences, you will find them aplenty here. I was really impressed by them.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. No, I agree with you as far as the similarity between some of those awesome scenes we get in the Daredevil Netflix show. This is gritty. This is to be really brutal and grounded in very realistic. A lot of people before this movie came out were complaining, is a girl doing it, is a woman doing it. They can't fight like that. She would be way bigger. You're hearing that. You're hearing some people complain about that about Wonder Woman, how she would be, more ripped and big. This stuff is ridiculous. I get it because people are so used to seeing overblown big muscle people.
Yeah.
Some of the strongest people I've ever seen do ridiculously crazy strong things on TV or something like that. They're not that huge. Some of them are. Mm-hmm. Some of them aren't. I've seen. I remember when I was a kid in my teens watching TV. A guy breaking a world record for the most amount lifted. He wasn't ripped at all. He was not ripped one bit, and he broke the record right there. And these things can be different. And I'm not saying that Atomic Blonde is some kind of superhero strength person, but not everyone can. Are those punches and kicks, are they believable? Absolutely. The action here is believable. It's a lot of fun. It's very brutal. Which is to be expected. The director was one of the people who worked on John Wick.
Yep.
And he brought that here, and it's great. There's not a single action scene that disappoints.
Yeah. That plays into something Charlize Theron said in a lot of interviews with this, that this is something that she wanted to do in these shoots to really express and make that believable. Like, yes, a woman could do this, or you could see how this would actually play out and unfold. In two ways. One, again, we have this really weird parallel in our culture with thinking about size or how ripped you are equals how well you can fight. It does not at all.
Right.
It comes down to something completely different, and the way that I think she's able to play off her different opponent types, and a lot of that plays out in a very realistic way. She runs into a couple of opponents who are definitely stronger than she is, definitely have the height and reach on her.
Most I would say most of them are, yeah.
Yeah, most of them, and then how she adapts. Also, more average size opponents. You know, the options available to her, and then just super high awareness of her environment, the way she uses everything around her. You know, and not making this as much of a super powered martial arts flick per se, but just very grounded, very realistic, real gritty stuff. It's good. It's good.
There's a part in it, and again, we're still in non-spoilers. There's a part where, and this is what I really like. You don't see this too much, where the fight is going for so long that they both get exhausted.
Yeah.
And they're tired, and they've both been taking a beating, and it's like, you really don't see that too much. It's always so over glorified. It's like, that's, in watching, it's like, God, the first person who gets up is gonna win this.
Yep.
And and then one of them gets up, and then they fall down because they're so freaking tired. It's like, this is what it's like.
Yep.
This is what you never see, and it was a breath of fresh air to see that. And to enjoy it. It was very riveting in that effect. But, at the same time, yes, the fact that she isn't as strong as a lot of the people she's taking on, that she's smaller, this does play a role. And you can tell this in how she approaches fighting people.
Yep.
So it's very believable. And all these people were like, it's not believable. It's like, you're not believable.
Yeah.
Your face isn't
believable. I was about to say it. You didn't say it. Oh man, no, good stuff.
So yeah, no, it's a fun movie. It's very enjoyable. As far as a spy flick, it's very serviceable. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Naysayers, get out of here.
Amen to that.
You don't know what you're talking about. So, do you want to go to spoilers then?
Definitely. Okay.
Before we go into spoilers, well, let's rate it. For those who don't want to hear the spoilers, rate it 1 out of 10
stilettos.
No. Well, maybe stilettos. We could do stilettos. I was going to say super secret double agent lists.
That works too.
Or stilettos. You can say stilettos. I'll say lists.
I'm gonna give this 7 stilettos out of 10.
All right. I'm thinking a 7 as well. I'm actually between 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go 7.5. This was fun. The sound in this movie, though, while it has its moments, it has its great moments, and then it has its really crappy moments. And the sound effects overall are weak, and at times take you out of this. If you've ever worked in film or worked in audio for video production, you will listen to this and be like, God, I was doing better in my first semester.
Yeah.
It's not the best, so maybe that's just my hypersensitivity to it because I've done a lot of that. But besides, it's like in the music. While the music is good, I like most of the songs. It's like they really went too far with it, almost to the point of cheese, and definitely there are points where it really takes you out of the movie.
Yeah.
But the visuals, the acting, the directing, the action, the actors, all great.
Yeah, musically, hey, I'll be honest. In my opinion, there was just one that could have stayed that I would have taken. If you really want to make that throw, that kind of fusion mix they did between Vanilla Ice's theme, like near the end after all the KGB agents get iced. Okay, fine, I could accept that there just in that context. If you didn't have anything else surrounding it, it would work. But yeah, I think otherwise it's a bit much because the story itself certainly doesn't need the support. As we hinted at, the agent interplay here is, I think, part of what's so fun about this. There's, Charlize Theron's character, Atomic Blonde. She literally from the moment she touches down in Berlin, she's compromised. She's put in terrible position.
Whoa! Are we in spoilers now?
You said go into spoilers.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying.
No, you're right, but it sounds like you're kind of leading off in what we're seeing. Okay.
I mean,
okay, we're spoilers.
Okay. I can stop. We can go back to now. Okay. The moment she lands, it's put just a really terrible position here with pretty much attacked by KGB agents off the bat. Is fighting for her life immediately from the airport. Is unsure if she can trust the contact that MI6 has set up for her. Turns out that she can't. She's bugged by this guy, everywhere she goes, her moves are being tracked by multiple sources. And then once you start becoming aware of the other players that are involved in this, it really blooms. But the cool part about this is I think how she's able to keep a level head and more of all not get so pulled into where the situation is controlling her. She survives through the worst of it, which she needs to do, but comes out of that, I think, very much in command of not only the situation, but what to do about it and how to execute it, and really ends up turning this whole thing. She completely turns the tables.
I appreciated overall how spying is hard, and most of them are really bad at it and really good at it in different ways. Because there's aspects of this where Atomic Blonde is really bad at this.
Yeah.
But that's just because the other people are really good.
Yeah.
It really gave you this. It really gave you the feeling of this is chess. This is one-upsmanship the whole way. This is all about making your move and making the right move. And it's not so much that the other person's bad at it. It's just that the other person's really good at one aspect or the other.
Right.
It was really good in that regard. It's like, all right, I felt like the first time in a long time we got a really good look in what old school spying was and how it went and how everyone kind of sucks at this. But everyone's good at it in some ways as well.
And some that think they're amazing at it aren't as amazing as they think. I think the one of those KGB agents had me laughing pretty hard. He taunts numerous characters throughout the film about you're not as good at this as you think you are you? And then he ends up getting capped himself. So I thought that was pretty good.
It's a great theme that I think that runs through the movie, but it's not overdone either.
Right.
At least it's not like we're saying it's not a statement they make and don't back up. It's there's context there showing it.
Totally.
It was a lot of fun in that regard. Because there's even a couple times when I'm watching the movie and I'm just like, gosh, Atomic Blonde, I thought you were like one of the best. You kind of suck in here. All this stuff is getting past you and stuff. But then you see at the end, not so much. And she does have her advantages. Like she's very focused. She's very tough.
Yep.
Her demeanor, her looks are used in ways that should be, in disguise at times when they should be as well.
Definitely. And I think the other struggle too is sometimes you see the humbling parts of stories or the moments that would humanize main character. She has a few. I think that's especially we see some of that through the French contact she meets.
You see a lot of the French contact.
Oh yeah, quite a bit, mind you. And it's funny because Charles actually mentioned that it's super easy to work with her. She was name that actress. I'm sorry, it's evading me right now, but she's.
Oh, I had it up here. I forgot though. Sophia something.
Sophia. She's also a dancer. So effortless.
Sophia Boutella.
Yeah, that's my first time seeing her.
I can't think of anything
to my knowledge in anything. But no, I think those are the moments that you can see that kind of shake Atomic Blonde a bit, but not to the point where they cripple her. It's nothing that throws her completely off her mission, but there are those points I think in any spy film that are sort of the challenge. Daniel Craig had a lot of these in the recent Bond films, especially the latest final one here. Well, I shouldn't say final because I don't know that yet, but where he sort of walks away from MI6 and everything. And you can tell all of this has had a cumulative effect. It's shaken him. And he, makes, I think, a more of an emotional decision at the end, self-health, so be it. But no, you have those moments here, but they don't completely pull our protagonist out of everything. She sticks to it. She gets done above and beyond, I think, what was expected, and pretty awesome, I think, the way she comes out in this one.
So, what did you? Let's get right into it. Because there's a couple things here, but let's get right into it. Did you believe her when she said that? What was his name, dude? McAvoy's character, when she said that he was
Percival?
Satchel.
Percival?
Yeah, Percival. When she mentioned to him that she realized that he was Satchel.
Right. Did I? Yeah.
Did you buy that at the time?
Yeah.
I thought it was weird. There was a part of me was like, because, I mean, at some point you're like, they're going to reveal to you who Satchel is, and in fact, and throughout the movie, it's really kind of confusing because you're like, one of these people is Satchel.
Yeah.
Who's Satchel? And then it almost seemed like a little weak when she called him Satchel, but I bought it too because it really felt like it was the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, all right, that's Satchel, and that seemed a little too obvious, but he's not Satchel.
Right.
She's Satchel. And everyone who hasn't seen this, what the fuck's Satchel?
Yeah.
Satchel. She has a few objectives in the movie.
Yeah.
One is to get back this list of all these operatives and such that has been lost.
Right.
The other main objective is to find and bring Satchel to justice, and Satchel is a double agent that has been leaking massive amounts of information out of Europe and the UK, and they want Satchel brought to justice, but she is Satchel. I thought that was a good twist.
Same.
I thought overall I enjoyed it. At the same time, it felt a little forced. It was like, aha!
Yeah.
Here's Satchel the whole time, and which then makes more sense as to why she really wasn't looking for Satchel.
Exactly, and
it's not brought up too much.
It isn't, and it ties more, I think, to the very end theme of her close association with the CIA. Out of all this and everything, instead, because there were a few moments, especially some high tension moments, where she sort of dropped out of at least what felt like the commonality of her accent and everything. And I said, And
you've lived in the UK though. That's something you'd catch. I would not catch that.
I did, and I counted. It was twice that I really noticed it. And I said, I'm gonna wait till the end of the film. I said I'm not gonna judge that at all, because that might have something to do with everything, or maybe not. And whether they meant it or not intentionally, it did.
In fact, I found myself at the very end when she's not talking with the accent. I'm like, is she not talking with an accent now? Is she not even
right
British? And then she does say a full sentence like, oh
yeah. No, that works super well, and also, if you had any, if you were wondering at all, like, well, why didn't she pursue the whole Satchel issue, whatever else, and once you make that final, connect the last dots at the end with the whys, I think that seals everything up pretty well. So the good thing about that is, if you were to continue this, you wouldn't, at least I don't think you'd have really weird loose ends and other things to tie up. It's pretty all well told within this. So
they do a good enough job laying down the groundwork of, should she even trust the MI6?
Yeah.
Should she just watch out for herself? And this is one of the better parts, is that at the very end, when you think it's done, then they put you somewhere else. And it's like, oh, look at she's shady.
Yeah.
She didn't trust anyone or anything. It's like, not so much. Not so much. There's reasons for this.
Yeah.
There's reasons for this. It was done well. And at the same time, I thought it was a little forced. But I think as well as you can get something across as far as the triple cross and stuff like that, it was done pretty well.
Yeah. No, for sure. And if anything, like I was saying, it did not leave me, with glaring questions about any of that at the end. I think all the parties involved were pretty well stated, where they stood with everything, and then of course the drama of where the list went and whose hands that actually ended up in at the end. It was great, and it kind of sucks, for Percival, after all he went through for this whole elaborate cover up he was trying to pull. It just backfired on him completely.
So he was MI6, right? Or was he an operative just working for them in this case?
He was supposed to be MI6.
Okay, he was supposed to be. It was a little hazy there.
Right. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if they intended to do this or not, but I kind of harped in that name, Percival. It just jumped out at me. That was one of our theories.
So you know what that means, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not in terms like a metaphor as much, but just like he was one of the Knights of the Round, and he had his own story that had to do. He was really I call him the quest guy, is what I always nickname him. He was the one one of the most zealous who was after the Holy Grail. And, in that sense, he was a real gatherer of truth, knowledge, facts, information. He was always, real hungry for that. So I found that interesting that they kind of chose at least that kind of code for this guy. It was interesting. I thought it was a pretty apt choice, actually. So.
Yeah, at least for me, I got the vibe that he's a piece of shit right from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the whole act of being drunk, not knowing what day it is, being high, being off game, being late, it's all that's garbage. I mean, for the high profile role that he was in, there's no way he could afford to be off his game like that. And if anything, I think it was to throw others off.
So if they do a sequel, which if it does well enough, they obviously will. Do they? Here's the problem, because it's 1989, and if they're lucky, they can push Atomic Blonde being in her maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Right.
But where the actress is even older than that. How do they do it? Do they continue on into like the 90s, or do they do it a period piece kind of thing where they jump it to some other era and she's just a similar, kind of like Bond? Maybe do they go the female Bond role where maybe it's not even Charlize Theron again, which would be crazy not to. You get as many of these out as you can with her, but it's just a different time now. But the characters are kind of the same. You still have John Goodman playing his character. You still have Charlize Theron playing Tom Valeno. How do you think they go about it?
I want to say that they stick that whole leave idea, and I say that because at the end of the debriefing, one of the heads of the MI6 says, "Hey, we're shutting this down. We're gonna scrap this. Start fresh. I'm putting you on leave, and when you eventually you return, you'll be back with a fresh slate." Obviously,
you think she continues the double agent as an MI6 agent?
Not necessarily. I actually take that whole phrase as more of a vehicle for this. If in the event we do get a sequel, that is, her chance to go back home, take all this off the plate, and let time pass. I mean, I'm looking at this at a global context as well. It's post Cold War. That's officially coming to an end. There's a lot of other world events that happen afterward, but I want to say I could not see something else immediate. But if there was something more immediate, I would like to see them kind of follow along the same lines of what they set up here. They made this around a really major world event, the Berlin Wall falling. I'm not sure if they want to stick on the same lines as Cold War, but base again. I think keep basing that on something that we know historically.
Make the story adjacent to another.
Yeah. World. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty that happen. I think in between, even if you, I mean, how many stories have we had that have taken a book out of what we've seen from terrorism and everything else? If you really want to jump all the way ahead to, the early 2000s, around near the time of September 11th and other things like that. There's so much you can do, so much.
You get the. I mean, if you're going to try to stick in the same timeline, you get the Gulf War just a couple years ahead.
True.
So they could do that and make something adjacent to that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where they go with it. I think a sequel would be interesting. I would go see it. Just because I enjoyed the first one, I'll see if they can make lightning strike twice. I mean, This wasn't the greatest thing ever, but this was good.
Right.
And can they do it again?
That's the question. I think you pretty much know what to roughly expect. I think going into kind of high octane. Right. Action film. You don't expect your mind to be twisted in a pretzel necessarily, but for what that is, it delivered strongly. And the excellent job, especially the action sequences. My gosh. So,
what was your favorite action sequence?
Stairway, easy.
Like just that part of that whole fight, because that was a long, big fight.
It was. I'd say if I were to pick obviously it's my favorite scene, but if I had to pick a part out of that was really good. I think it's when they made it into the back room, that hotel, and it was the big guy, big KGB agent that came in, and she'd stabbed him in the face with keys earlier on anyway, and he kind of shrugged it off. Insane durability, but I like that moment because it was so well based. She had a asset she was protecting that was trying to stop his own bleeding, was using anything he could to brain this guy. She was using anything she could to just knock this guy down. And I mean, she put everything on the table. I mean, just what was it like that little? That wasn't a toaster.
Literally picked up the hot plate.
The hot plate.
And used the table.
I mean, and putting her entire body weight into it. The full momentum hits. I mean, man, that was really, really, really well done.
I thought that was hilarious at one point when the person she's protecting even tries to help once he grabs something. And he's like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
Come out.
Yeah, he gets he uses that bottle, and after that he's like, I'm done. That's it. No. How about you?
It reminds me when I was little, my brothers and I would be fighting, and one of us would get a pot shot at and be like, all right, that's it. That didn't help, so I'm done trying.
Pretty good.
Totally related to that.
Same scene for you, or?
Well, we weren't trying to kill each other. As far as my favorite. Oh, I thought you. Okay. Geez, I don't know. I don't think so. I think. I don't know. There's a lot of really good ones. I keep going back to the one when she's at the dead agent's apartment.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good too, especially when she gets out and it's like, well, I would have worn a different outfit. I'm like, and then they don't even say why, and she doesn't have some kind of witty quip as to why she's like, I would have worn a different outfit, which is obvious by the end of that scene why she would have worn a different outfit. It's like, yeah, the skirt's not helping too much here, is it?
Good stuff.
But that whole scenario when she goes into that apartment complex, and we had seen that. That's actually what originally attracted me to this movie. As I'm sure you remember, you had not even heard of Atomic Blonde. In fact, it wasn't until about, I think, 2 months ago you knew it was Charlize Theron when I finally made you watch that trailer.
Yeah.
Like, you need to watch this, because I brought it up months and months ago when we did our movie review. I'm like, you got to see this. This looks awesome, because that was the initial trailer was part of that scene. And how brutal it was on the fight with the couple guys on the staircase. That was the bulk of the trailer, and there's definitely, there's elements of that really, that was obviously the premiere fight scene of the whole movie.
Definitely.
I can, just a side note, I can appreciate the fact that there's a couple times where she loses.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Like at the movie theater, she lost.
Yeah.
She lost that fight, and it's just like, all right, well, I gotta get the fuck out of here anyway. So
yeah,
she was able to make her escape, and even at the end of that, when it's all said and done, she loses the package.
Yeah,
he dies.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, all right, I gotta go hide.
Yeah,
I'm lucky to still be alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think that scene was the most fun, and probably because it was our first real introductory as to how badass this movie was going to be when in the apartment and how she handles those guys.
Yeah, with the fire hose too, man.
Yep.
Good stuff, real good stuff, and this is one of those prime examples where the trailer does not ruin it for you. If you're worried,
but if you're listening to this point, we sure as hell did.
But
things we haven't said though.
Yeah, we didn't let all the cats out of the bag. Just most of them in the brown spotted ones. But
the brown spotted.
Yeah, there's a few others there, I guarantee. But we'll be going over, I think, if we talk about it anymore. But hey, bottom line is, hey, you've heard our rating, heard where we stand on this one. You're looking for a solid action flick, spy, whodunit, double cross, triple cross, quadruple cross. Go check it out.
Awesome action. Yes.
Good stuff. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Our next review for next week is going to be Dark Tower, Mr. Idris Elba. Can't wait. Never read the book, but Chris, I don't think you have either, right?
I can't read.
Well, there you have it.
Don't laugh.
I'm not. I know. I'm lying. I so am.
That's all right. I'm used to it. Used to get laughed at for. I know. When I go to McDonald's, I just point at the pictures. That one.
And they know. Oh, number two. Okay, yeah, I got it.
No, I've not read a Stephen King thing. I love. Stephen King movies are so hit and miss. I mean, some of them are great. Then some of them are like, oh god, this is horrible. But like for example, while not a movie, The Stand. I love The Stand.
Yeah.
that miniseries is awesome. And every once in a while, you hear that they're going to talk about redoing The Stand. It's like, yeah, I don't think so. That's because if you're going to try to make a movie out of it, it's going to. I mean, the best they would be able to do is something like a Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
They could do no less without butchering that.
Yeah.
So, no, but I've not read this. In fact, I'm still learning a lot about it. You probably know more about it than I do. The only thing I know, I think we talked about this last week on our show, is that not only is it going to be a movie, but there was talk of a TV show as well.
Yeah, for sure.
To be adjacent with it. And I really need to know more about that than what I do. But this, the trailers are everywhere, and they look awesome. So we are reviewing that.
All right. Gunslinging, demon slaying, and the whole deal. But until then, we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.